All right, how y'all doing? Awesome, ready to go? Oh my God, you have a good July 4th weekend? Very good. America, freedom. Good to be here as an immigrant from Canada. Good to be here. Thank you for hosting me. If you got a Bible, open it up to Psalm 23. If you don't, we got bulletins on the way in. If you're new to the church and you don't have a Bible and you're like, I don't know what this is, just grab a bulletin and we put the passage that I'm gonna preach about and teach about on there for you so it's easy reference. We have a lot of work to do today as we, one of the things we do here, if you're new to the church, is we worship and then we give, which is part of worship, and then we open up the Bible and we ask God, like, hey, what's stuff? What's stuff about life? What's stuff about you? What's stuff about us? What do you want to say to us? And the Bible, we believe, is the inspired word of God where he told us what he thinks about things. And Psalm 23 is one of the great chapters in the whole Bible. It is one of the most well-known, maybe John 3:16 is probably the most well-known verse in the whole Bible because of football games and people going, yeah, whatever. But Psalm 23 is a close second, right? Psalm 23, even if you don't come to church, is the kind of passage that you've heard before because you hear it at funerals, you hear it at different scenarios where it's so beautiful. So I'm gonna start off, I got a whole bunch of stuff to unpack, but I'm gonna start off by just reading it for you, put it in, get it in front of our hearts and minds, and then we'll unpack and talk about what it means for our lives. Psalm 23, verse 1, the Lord is my shepherd, I lack nothing. He makes me lie down in green pastures. He leads me beside quiet waters. He refreshes my soul. He guides me along the right paths for his name's sake. Even though I walk through the darkest valley, I will fear no evil. For you are with me. Your rod and your staff, they comfort me. You prepare a table before me in the presence of my enemies. You anoint my head with oil. My cup overflows. Some of you right now are hearing this in the King James in your brains, aren't you? My cup overfloweth, right? It's all right. Surely your goodness and love will follow me all the days of my life, and I will dwell in the house of the Lord forever. Isn't that beautiful? There's so much in here to unpack that guarantee we're not going to have time for it, but let's get started. Here's the big idea. We need direction as human beings, and we need someone to direct us. That's if you're taking notes, if you're new to the church world, if you're just trying to figure out Jesus and God and spirituality, the fundamental conviction of this idea is that the Lord is my what? My shepherd, meaning you are, in this equation, you are a sheep, right? And so, there's one writer that I'm going to cite throughout this message a few times. I'm going to put a few quotes of him up. And his name is W. Philip Keller. And who he was is he was a shepherd for like 50 years. And he wrote a book called The Shepherd Reads the Shepherd's Psalm, Psalm 23. A shepherd reads Psalm 23. And he gives these little insights all throughout the Psalm and his writings and his book, all about what it looks like to view this Psalm through the eyes of a shepherd. And I'm gonna try to more teach than preach this morning because I wanna equip you to think about this Psalm in a particular way in 20 years from now, in 5 years from now. When you get that diagnosis and you don't know what to do about it, you don't need just some feeling that you had in a sermon. You need some information so that you can go back to Psalm 23 and go, this is what this thing is about. All right, makes sense? So I'm gonna give some quotes and stuff. So we're gonna, as Ray said, we're all caffeinated up, ready to go. All right, let's go. So here's what Keller says. I love this because oftentimes we think that Psalm 23 might be just a cute little psalm about little lambies and put it on a little thing for a little stitching in your child's room. It's like, here's a little lammy. All right, here's what Keller says. This psalm is actually about protection during dangerous travel. This is about a traveler and his flock of sheep facing risk in narrow ravines and dangerous pathways. All of it shows a trustworthiness in God in the face of every circumstance so that the speaker is confident and serene in the face of every threat. This is what's beautiful about the Bible. It's super practical and raw. It has everything to do with real life versus churchy life. I remember when I first walked into the church when I was 19, the first Time I was ever there, they were on stage and the sermon guy was up there. I didn't know what he was. And he was talking about the fact that, oh, Jesus went and he called the donkey in Jerusalem and you're all donkeys. And I'm like, what is going on here? What does this have to do with my life? I'm an 18-year-old kid trying to struggle with not having Jesus in my life and the parties and the dance and all the stuff. And you're talking about donkeys. And then they're like, hey, welcome to our fellowship. And I'm like, what are we, hobbits? This place speaks a completely different language than the real life. And what Psalm 23 does, it goes, no. I'm gonna talk real life with you, man. I'm gonna talk raw. I'm gonna talk about what real life is. Real life is dark sometimes. You live in the valley of the shadow of what? Death. And you live in fear. You live with all this anxiety and stress in your life, and you're trying to figure out where does God fit? Where do I fit? What is this all about? And so that's what this whole psalm is about. So he says, the Lord is my shepherd. Here's what I love about it. First thing for your notes, you know what it means? It means you are a sheep. Come on. So listen, if you could pay me, we got lots of people out there running conferences and YouTube channels and having books who are trying to tell you, give me $10,000, $20,000, come to my conference and I'm gonna tell you that you're a winner. I'm gonna tell you that you should go inside yourself and find yourself and get your identity, and you can do anything with yourself. You just use positive words and positive thinking and you can have anything, right? We've seen this, man. I used to watch Oprah and she used to get on the TV and go, all you need to do is think positive thoughts and speak positive things. So if you want a boat, you just put a picture of a boat and you slap it up on your fridge, you go, boat, 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 boat. And the law of attraction means it has to come to you. It has to come to you. You gotta have that boat. Rich, I wanna be rich, I wanna be rich, I wanna be healthy. And the universe is like, oh, they've said it so many times, I have to give it to them as a math equation. Go inside yourself, find yourself, you're a winner, you're a winner. And this text started out with saying, you're a loser. You're a sheep. Do you know how lost sheep are? Do you know how dumb sheep are? They'll just follow other sheep off a cliff, dead. Oh, I don't know, he's going this way. There's a cliff, Johnny. I don't know. Here's the thing. And still God loves us and is our shepherd. Even though we're that messed up. See, we live in a culture where there's something called cancel culture. And if someone messes up, we cancel them for life because they've sinned. Somewhere along the line, they've made a mistake. And if you look through the Bible, even the guy who wrote this psalm, who's the guy who wrote this psalm? David. He cheated on his wife. He murdered a guy. I mean, this guy would have been canceled in our culture. Paul would have been canceled. Moses would have been canceled. Abraham definitely would have been canceled. Noah would have been canceled. Everybody canceled. Everybody. And the Bible comes on and goes, oh, guys, I know that you're sheep, but I'm still willing to be your shepherd. I'm not writing you off because you walked into church today and you messed up and you sinned 5 years ago, or you're coming in here and you're looking at stuff that no one around you knows you're looking at and you feel bad about yourself because you derailed your family, but whatever. Look, I know you're a sheep, man. I know you're dumb. I know you've made mistakes, but I'm still willing to be your shepherd. That's the beautiful part about all of this. It's casting God, the Lord, the loftiest of people in the universe, as the lowliest job on the planet. You know what shepherds do all day? They sit in the muck and the smell of the sheep. The sheep are dirty, disgusting, filled with pests and all kinds. And the shepherd's down with them. Isn't that the most beautiful image of what God then does in Jesus Christ? He comes down and becomes one with us, and he lives with the animals and the people and the smelly disciples. This is what's beautiful. The Lord is my shepherd. And this is what's great when Jesus talks in Luke 15. He says, the good shepherd will leave the 99 just to go hunt out the one, right? And I'm glad that he came and hunted out the one that was me when I was 18 years old. And he came and he hunted me down even though I was doing whatever I wanted with my life. And he hunted me down. So here's what W. Philip Keller says. He says that there's oftentimes different sheep pastures or whatever where they'll have sheep and they have really bad owners. All right. So he says this: the sheep's well-being depends on what type of shepherd he has. The good shepherd spares no pains for the welfare of his sheep. In memory, I still see one of the sheep ranches in our district which was operated by a sheep man who ought never to have been allowed to keep sheep. His stock was always thin, weak, and riddled with disease or parasites. Again and again, they would come and stand at the fence, staring blankly through the woven wire at the green, lush pastures which my flock enjoyed. Had they been able to speak, I'm sure they would have said, "Oh, to be set free from this awful owner." What's the difference? You got a good shepherd, you got a bad shepherd. Listen, some of you have chosen awful owners. You have chosen money to own you and lead you, to be your shepherd. You have chosen different relationships. You've chosen your own beauty, your own success in life. Whatever it is, you've chosen these masters, these shepherds to rule your life. And the problem is, if you take the Lord as a shepherd, he says, I lack what? Nothing. Any other owner, you will lack constantly. All you'll do is lack, because all those owners will do, money, fame, power, success, having a perfect family, always being beautiful. All those owners and shepherds do is take from you, take from you, take from you. You can never live up to them. And so he says, I remember, here's the thing about a good shepherd. Sheep can hear. Have you ever seen a shepherd with the whole voice? You know what Jesus in John chapter 10 says? The sheep can hear the shepherd's voice. And I remember being in India and watching a shepherd walk around, and he said he had this huge flock. And he's like, hey, why don't you try to call them? And so we're like, sheep, come here, whatever. Hey, whatever. And he just walks up, he goes, come here. And they all came running. Go over there. He barely even, because the shepherd has a voice and the sheep understand the voice. And the question when I start hearing Jesus is can you hear the voice of the shepherd in your life anymore? Does he ever speak to you and say, do this, do that, do this, do this? And if not, you got to be going, man, am I zoned into the shepherd? So I remember, I was starting to question my calling. I planted a church up in Vancouver in 2010 called Village Church when I was 29 years old. And after about a year, it wasn't going particularly well. It grew from 160 people to 90 in a year. So it was perfect. I was slaying it. And I began to question my calling. I began to question whether this was a good idea for my life at all. And just at the point of the pinnacle of me thinking this, I got a phone call from a guy. And he said, hey man, I haven't been at the church for a year or so because we had to move 6 months ago, but I want to tell you something. My father-in-law passed away 2 days ago, and he tried a bunch of churches in his life, but he hated them because they were all filled with stuffy religious nonsense. And he came in and sat in the back row one day, and you talked about Jesus, and he started to weep, and he gave his life to Christ, and 3 days ago he died, and I just wanted to thank you for doing what you do. And in that moment, I began to hear the voice of the shepherd say, keep doing what you're doing, man. Keep doing what you're doing. This is the moments. This is what God, as he sets himself as a shepherd, he's not setting himself up as some aloof, distant God who's so far away from you, you'll never be able to catch. He's going, I'm your shepherd. I'm right there. I got a voice. And then it says, if the Lord is your shepherd, listen, you will lack nothing, which is such a beautiful promise, because all of life is about just wanting more and more and more. And he's going, there's only one way, because here's the thing. Without a shepherd, sheep left to themselves lack everything. They lack water, food, place to sleep, protection from danger. They lack everything without a shepherd. They're so dumb. Okay, I'm sure you've seen this video before because it's a classic, but this is a video of how smart a sheep in trouble is. And just think about your own life. Classic. That's you. That's what God's saying. That's you. You get yourself in trouble, you sin, you get yourself, your marriage is bad, whatever, and God gets you out of it. And then you're like, okay, now let me take control again and be my own shepherd. And bam, you're right back where you started, right? And so he says you lack nothing because God's going to take care of. God, your life is a never-ending wanting. It's like you always want more, right? Think about your own life. You always want more. I can win the lottery tomorrow, and I would wake up on Monday and go, yeah, I have everything now. I got $500 million. I'm so happy. And then I'd go, yeah, but my golf swing isn't quite there yet. I need to make sure I get, right? We always have this unrelenting wanting, and this is what he's saying. He's going, listen, Listen, why do you sin? You know why you sin? Because you're not satisfied in the shepherd. God isn't entertaining enough for you. He's not satisfying enough for you. The reason you lust is because God isn't pleasurable enough for you. The reason you go after more money is because God isn't satisfying enough for you. That is the fundamental flaw. And he's going, no, if you really have God, you should lack nothing. But what happens with us is we go, the Lord is my shepherd, and I lack everything, and I want more, which is why Amazon arrives at your house 8 times a day, right? It's just an endless desire for more and more and more. My wife and the Amazon guy, they know each other. All right, there's like, hey Dave, hey Aaron, see you in an hour. I'm like, what are we doing? He makes me lie down in green pastures. I love this. He leads me beside quiet waters. How many of us need this verse right now? In the midst of stress, difficulty, pain, agony, the world's going crazy. We don't know what's going on. We got way more information than we know. Are the kids gonna work out? Are the grandkids gonna work out? Are these, and the money gonna be there? Is the marriage gonna figure out? All the stress, and you're trying to control everything. And he says, you know the number one thing, all you suburbanites, all you people who grew up in the cities around asphalts and buildings and people, you know what you need? God needs you. You need to let God receive it. Don't make it happen, receive it. Go and lay beside a green pasture and beside quiet waters and still and be and do nothing. See, we live in a culture that says you are only what you do. You're only what you produce. So you need to produce a lot. You need to make sure that you're posting that funny new Instagram reel or everyone's gonna forget about you, right? You need to make sure you post that cool quote you read. You gotta publish. And what he just said is, no, before you can be anything, you need to just be with God. You need to just stop trying to perform and do for the boss, for work, for the family, and just be. Before you can be anything for anyone else, I just need you to be quiet. Don't produce, don't teach the kids anything. Just go sit beside on the grass in your front lawn, I don't even care, and just be. The neighbors, hey Tommy, what's going on? Shut up. I'm just being right now. And beside quiet waters, I loved it. So here's the thing. You know what the biggest distraction in your life is? See, here's what we think. If Satan's gonna distract me, if Satan's gonna ruin my life, here's how he's gonna do it. He's gonna do it. You ever seen The Exorcist? Right? Yeah, that's how we think Satan works, right? Satan's gonna, the girl's head spinning around, she's puking all over the place. I will kill you now. That's what we think Satan is like. But most often, you know how Satan works? By that little machine you have in your right pocket right now. Because all he needs to do is distract you. He don't need to make your head spin around and vomit all. All he needs to do is keep you on the phone and not solving your own soul out in the pastures and the quiet waters. He needs you to keep thinking. You got to produce. You got to do. You got to get that email. You got to check that text. You got to give that thing. So let me do an experiment for a second. Who's willing to be an experimental mouse for me for a second? Okay. Sir, what's your name? Bercharis. What is it? Bercharis. Okay, I have never met someone named Bercharis. Good to meet you, sir. Do you have your phone on you? Okay, can you pull it out? Okay, so I want you to check your screen time for this week. Hey, you put your hand up, bro. You must be new here. And as he does that, I want all of you to pull out your phones. I know I'm not gonna ask any more of you, all right? You can pull out your phones privately, pull out your phones, and for those of you over 50, what you do is you go to the top of the screen with your thumb and you pull down to the search and then you type in screen time, okay? And it's gonna tell, and then you press screen time and it's gonna tell you how many minutes, hours a day you spend on your phone staring at your screen. Okay, sir, screen time, usually it gives you for like the week or whatever. Screen time for you, sir. Shout it out.
For the week, 7 hours.
7 hours, not for the week, guys, per day. 7 hours per day. Some days it's 8. All right, let me ask you a question. Can anyone beat 7 hours in here? All right, we had a guy last night, he's like 12 hours. 12 hours. Guys, listen, my average screen time is 4 hours and 38 minutes every day. This isn't for the week. This isn't for the month. All right, we're talking about every single day your screen time. Now, you know what the problem with math is? It don't move around with how you feel. Right? You're like, well, I don't like that I spend 7 hours on my phone a day. And math goes, shut up. I don't care. This is your life. This is what you do. Now imagine we spent half of that time doing stuff oriented toward the kingdom of Christ, toward getting our own soul in order. If I spent half, you think I spend 4 hours trying to love my neighbor every day? 4 hours. Hey, Tom, you need anything else? I still got 3 hours left. You know, it's like, what? Want me to cut your lawn? Want me to paint your house? 4 hours I'll spend on my phone. Now, some of it's work, some of it's justified, some of it. The point is, you get to the end of your life and there's a certain amount of hours we spend trying to produce, trying to be, and what happens is we get stressed, and we get stressed. And God just said, you know what he makes you do? He makes you lie down in green pastures and beside quiet waters where you produce nothing. You are just you, and he loves you for that. And all the stress of your life dissipates because the shepherd is taking care of you. The shepherd is making you lie down in these pastures so that you can rest and you can stop doing for God. And then he leads you. He makes you, I love this, by the way, he leads you beside quiet waters. Why? Because it's absolutely mandatory that a sheep drinks. Listen to this. Here's what Keller says. The body of a sheep is composed of 70% water. If thirsty, the sheep becomes restless and will try to drink polluted waters. They pick up parasites from this. I recall so clearly standing under the blazing sun of Africa and watching the native herds being led to their owners' water wells. Now, I love this. Picture this about God now. The flocks were led into these deep cisterns where cool, clear, and clean water awaited them. But down in the well, stripped naked was the owner, bailing water to satisfy the flock. It was hard, heavy, hot work. Only through the owner's energy, efforts, sweat, and strength could his sheep have their thirst satisfied. Green pastures don't just happen by chance. They're a product of tremendous labor, time, and skill in land use. God says, I'm creating these green pastures. I'm bringing you to water because you need to drink, you need to rest, and I'm gonna do the hard labor so that you don't have to. Isn't that beautiful? This is the God. Listen, I don't want you to just believe in God. Every week that I get to be up here and share the Bible with you, I don't want you to just believe in God. I want you to treasure him. I want you to just be like, I treasure God and everything he's done for my life. And that's what this passage is going. Look at what he does for you. He does these green pastures. He gets them all set. Now, you know what? Okay, green pastures, that's rest, that's lying down. By the way, some of you just need a Sunday afternoon rest, amen? Right? You know, Jesus took a rest. He laid down, he took a nap. And if Jesus needs a nap, you need a nap. And you get behind these green pastures. Now, you know what now listen to this. There are 3 things that will fight against sheep resting properly at a green pasture and beside still waters. Okay, you ready for this? This is what Keller says. There's 3 things that if they're in the presence of the sheep, they'll never sit on the green pastures and by the quiet waters. Here they are. 1, they need to be free from all fear. Think about this for your own life. 2, they need to be free from friction with other sheep in the flock. And number 3, they need to be free from the torment of flies and pests. Fear, friction, and flies. All of them are everything to do with your life. Fear. Fear drives your life. Every time you wake up, you're afraid of death. You're afraid to lose. You're afraid of whatever is coming down the pike for you. You live in constant fear. Remember, but it doesn't mean that you're supposed to now just go, okay, I'm not supposed to do anything. How many of you were scared to have kids? Right? I was terrified to have kids. I got 3 daughters, and I'm doing a fantastic job raising them. Aaron's all right. I'm doing great. But I remember when I had those 3 daughters, I was terrified when that first baby came out. And they handed it to me, and Aaron went off for 3 hours to recover from surgery, and I'm sitting there with this baby, and I'm like, I don't know what to do with this baby. I started reading Lord of the Rings and walking around, and the Bible, of course. And so, but I remember that 3-4 days later, they put you in a car, And they're like, okay, you just take this thing home now. I was like, what? They come out and check the little seat belt, and they're like, all right, have a good life. And you're like, aren't you coming? Terrified. I was terrified to move here. I'm Canadian, man. You guys and all your fireworks. It's too much freedom down here, guys. We need to scale it back a little bit. Can we all agree we should stop it with the fireworks? Everyone's blowing their hands off, lighting whole neighborhoods on fire, and we're like, you're never gonna take these fireworks from me. This is freedom. All right. I feared moving down here. I don't know what's going on. America's different than Canada. I fear the hospital situation. In Canada, we pay a lot of taxes, but you go to the hospital, you just never get a bill. You never see anything. Here, I'm like driving to the hospital. I don't even know which. See, in Canada, it's the hospital. You just go to the hospital. Here, it's like, where do you go? Sutter, Kaiser, left or right? I don't know. I went to the wrong one. Gave me a bill. I'm like, I don't have any insurance in this one. They're like, it's America. It's like, It's fear, man. I'm scared. I was scared to come down here, but God, He's my shepherd. And so I don't need to be afraid. I was afraid, are my daughters gonna connect down here? They're gonna make friends? I'm gonna move them from everything they know. Fear runs your life. Friction. One of the great things fighting against you is the friction that you have with other sheep in the pen, by the way. Any of you have any friction with anybody? I know this isn't applicable to the modern church at all, that we would have friction and we would have, you know what Keller says the number one thing a wolf is waiting for? A wolf is waiting in the bushes to pounce on these sheep and eat them. And the way he does it is he waits till they all start infighting. And they start fighting each other about who's the alpha. And then the wolf just comes in and devours them because they're all infighting. You need to eliminate the friction from your life. You know, really practically in your life, some of you have those relationships that you need to get, you need to go and reconcile them. I know that your aunt said that thing 10 years ago at the Christmas dinner, but life is short, man. It's time to forgive her. I know that relationship went south. I know, man. I know during COVID, everything blew up. Remember COVID? I watched whole friendships blow apart over COVID, right? Everyone's like, I was sitting at a dinner. I'm like eating my nice steak. Everything's fine. One guy goes, you have to get a vaccine or you will hate old people. All right. Then the next guy's like, you better not get a vaccine because you're going to shrink up my uterus or whatever. And I'm like, what? You have a uterus? This is crazy. And these people blew up right in front of each other, started fighting, hating each other. By the end of the dinner, it was over. Those friends never hung out again. Am I the only one who experienced this during COVID? Right? Everyone was doing this. Everyone was all of a sudden at a PhD in epidemiology, and everyone was fighting and yelling at each other on Facebook. Friction. And the whole time, the enemy went, good. Love when the church is doing this because they're not talking about the gospel. And he'll come in and eat you alive. Some of you need to go reconcile those relationships. Some of you need to send that text this afternoon and go, I'm sorry we haven't talked in a decade. I'm sorry about that thing. I'm sorry. I need to get this relationship right. Life is too short. And then this one, listen to this. You got fear, you got friction, and then you got flies. Now flies, here's what's fascinating, okay? If you shoot over to verse, what verse is it? 4? No. Where's the oil? Okay, verse 5. You anoint my head with oil. You know what's great about this? We forget this. We don't understand this. So what happens? This is what happens to a sheep, okay? Flies, this is what Keller says. Flies come into a sheep and they go up their nose and in their head and they lay eggs. And over time, those begin to hatch in the sheep's hair, and they get so agitated that what they'll do is they'll run to a rock and they'll start bashing their own head against the rock to kill the larvae that have been put into them. And you know what the shepherd has to do? Take oil and put it over their head to get the flies out. so that they won't bash their own head against a rock and kill themselves. When he says, you put oil in my head, this is what he's talking about. I'm so messed up that I'm gonna go to the things in life that are gonna kill me. I'm gonna go to the sins that are gonna kill me. They're gonna be things, I might as well be bashing my head against a rock, trying to save myself. And God shows up and he goes, no. I'm gonna save you. I'm gonna put oil over your head. I'm gonna save you from the flies, from the things and the sins in your life when you go, I'm gonna do this my way. I'm gonna do this my way. And God, here's the beautiful thing, saves you from yourself. I don't know how many of you need that. I need that because I'm a dumb sheep. Even this week, there was a massive tree in my backyard that I needed to get out of the way. So I came to the facility guys here. I'm like, hey guys, you got a chainsaw? And they're like, yeah, here, give me a chainsaw. I throw it in my trunk. I'm driving. One of my buddies, I stopped by his house. He goes, what are you with that chainsaw? I'm like, oh, I'm just cutting down a big tree in my backyard. He's like, no, you're not. Everything I know about you means you're not doing this. You will cut off both your arms if you try to use a chainsaw yourself. And I'm like, oh, really? I thought I could just... See, sometimes we need to be saved from our own stupidity. Saved from going back to the same dirty water, the same sins, the same nonsense that derails our life, to the point where we're bashing our head against a rock and God sees it and goes, let me try to save you from yourself by anointing your head with oil. So beside quiet water, he refreshes my soul. The number one question of your life is your soul, not just your life. It's not about whether you can get a 3,000, 4,000 square foot house, get a nice car and beautiful grandkids and live the rest of your days. It's the question of your soul, because this is a part of yourself that will live forever. Whether you like it or not, it's gonna live forever. And so the question is, have you come to know Jesus so that your soul can live forever with him? That's the ultimate question, and making sure that you take care of the question of your own soul. My grandfather, when he was the only other Christian in my family, and he passed away a couple years ago at 100 years old, but he became a Christian in his late 20s. And it was when he went to a Billy Graham crusade in Toronto and he heard Billy Graham preach. And I said, what did he preach that day? And he said he preached when Jesus got up and said, you can gain the whole world and yet forfeit your what? Your soul. You can gain everything. You can get cars, you can get money, you can get fame, you can get status, you can get beauty, you can get all the relationships you want in the world. You can sleep around, you can do whatever you want and gain it all and forfeit your own soul. This is the question of life. He refreshes my soul because it's the soul. Now, Keller says this, there are 3 ways that a sheep ends up completely, so you ever heard of the term a cast sheep? So a cast sheep is when a sheep, it's an old English term, it means when a sheep gets put over on its back and it can't get up again. It's like sitting there, it's like, bah, and it can't, and so a wolf's like, what? That sheep can't do anything. It just trots over, looks around, and goes, blah, 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 and eats it, okay? So, how do you become a cast sheep? How does your soul become cast? How does it flip over so that you become useless and the enemy can attack you? Keller says there's 3 ways. Listen to this for your own life. Resting in too comfortable a place, too much wool on your body, and too fat. Spiritually, I'm talking about, of course. You become so comfortable that the enemy can attack you. You go on vacation mode for your spiritual life. Your soul in that moment is at risk. You become so comfortable that money becomes more important than kingdom things. I remember a conversation, once I'd started our church and I'd led it for about 5 years, literally thousands of people coming to know Jesus at this church. And a guy took me out for a conversation one day and he looked at me and he said, let me tell you something. If you're willing to leave this job, I will give you a job where you will make, and he told me a number that I'd never dreamed of making in my life. And he told me that, he said, I will give you this much money a year to come to my company and do what you do. Because pastors have a particular little skill set, right? It's like we can take a room like this and get you to buy into stuff, right? It's a very rare, some guys, if they're trying to sell cars or whatever, they're like, hey, buy a car. Why? It runs. But you hire an old pastor and they'll be like, buy a car. Why? Do you have a granddaughter? What is her name? Imagine her looking out the window on your way to a cottage trip and she's drawing little giraffes. I will buy this car, yes. You know what I'm saying? He said, if you leave this ministry, I will give you this much money a year. See, at that point, if I would have taken that money, my soul would have become cast. It would have flipped over, and I would have been very easy for the enemy to destroy. Because sometimes you can be alive to the world and dead to God. That's the state you don't want your soul to get into. And so he says, he guides me along the right paths. I love that. Some of you need the guidance. God, show me this, show me that in regard to sex or money or whatever. For his name's sake. Don't you love that phrase, by the way? Notice, if you just read all of verse 3, up to verse 3, you might think he did this all just for you. But he's doing it also for his own name and his own glory to be cast out into the world. To be sure, this is God providing and being a good shepherd so that the world hears about it. That's the point. Are you making sure that the world hears about who this good shepherd is? Right? This is what he's saying. And what I love about this is he's saying, like, you might think when you get to the point in the psalm that you're the master and God is here to serve you. Right? If that verse wasn't there, God was doing all this good stuff for you. And here's what you might begin to think, that the story is about you. I mean, this God, he lays out a nice pasture. He leads me beside still waters. This must be about me and how good I am. But he just flipped it on you. This is like, and forgive me if you've heard me use this analogy before, but this is like a cat versus a dog, okay? A cat and a dog. How many of you have cats, right? How many of you have dogs? Okay, so if you go out, you come home, your dog looks at you at the front door and it's wagging its tongue and it's so happy you're home, right? And a dog says, you know what? This master of mine, he feeds me, he gives me a beautiful home, he rubs my belly, he serves me so well, he must be God. So the dog serves you. A cat, however, if you're out for a couple hours and you come home and a cat's at home, you walk in the front door, this cat says, this thing feeds me, rubs my belly, gives me a nice bed, and it's sitting way up in a corner in some windowsill like, feed me, slave, all right? The cat deduces all the provision as if he is God. A dog says, the master gives me all this stuff, he must be God. The cat says, I must be God. And the problem is most of us have cat theology, where it's like, it's his name's sake that actually all of this is for, which messes with us. I thought this was about me. No, it's about him still. Verse 4, even though I walk through the darkest valley, isn't life tough sometimes? You get that diagnosis, you get that difficulty. Life can be very, very hard. And we talk about that at Bayside, man. We don't want to shy away from the fact that life is difficult, life is hard, life is real. It's oftentimes a dark valley. But even though I'm in that dark valley, I will fear no evil. You know, I have a friend, he was a mentor of mine before I planted our church, and he was the pastor there for years. And he has experienced, his name is Pastor Paul, he has experienced so much pain in his life. He lost a wife to cancer. Then when he was working at our church, his son got murdered while he was working there, 21-year-old son. And just a few months ago, I saw on social and texted with him that his 29-year-old daughter, 30-year-old daughter passed away of cancer as well. He lost a wife and 2 children. If you talk to Paul today, he would look at you and say, life sucks, but God is still good. The mystery of how that can take place, it's because right here, there are dark valleys. There are very dark valleys. And if you haven't hit one yet, just give it time. But I will what? Fear no evil. Because the shepherd, man, I know there's wolves out there. They want to kill me, man. They want to take my life. But you're with me. Isn't that the wonderful thing? I know nature is red in tooth and claw. Let me tell you, have you ever watched nature shows and gone, that's disgusting? Right? I owned 3 chickens. When my girls were really small, they're like, hey, Dad, can we get chickens? So we owned 3 chickens for a total of 3 days. No, I'm not kidding you, because you know what I did one night? I live in the burbs. I put those chickens out in this little Rubbermaid thing with some holes so it could breathe, and I put it out on the back porch, okay? I woke up and walked out, and it was a Quentin Tarantino movie out there, all right? I'm talking about there was blood everywhere. Guts, heads, legs. I was like, ah! I shut the blinds, and my kids are like, Daddy, where's the chickens? I'm like, ah! A raccoon came into my backyard and just ate those things. They were just sitting ducks in there. Whoa, a Rubbermaid, genius. Nature's brutal. So, here's the beautiful thing about the world, though. As long as he's with you. You know, the most important thing when you're fearing something is that God is with you. Not that he gives you laws from some high heavens and says, do a bunch of this stuff. You know, when my daughters used to get nightmares, think about your kids when they used to get nightmares. You'd go in there at 2 a.m. and they'd be crying. You know what they don't need? They don't need me to go, oh, you had a little nightmare? I'm sorry, little Bella. Here's what you need to do. Here's 3 strategies. Now go to sleep. Bye-bye. All right, close the door. What does she want me to do? Hold her. Just lay here. Just stay with me. No. Here's some 3 strategies for your life. No. Just lay here with me. Just lay here with me. It's the same in our life. This is why he's saying God is with me. And then he says, your rod and your staff, they comfort me. The rod and the staff were these things where they would actually be able to kind of smack the sheep around and guide them and lead them, which of course God does with us sometimes. But there's another thing that I love about this that Keller says. He says, a shepherd smacks his sheep at times to keep it away from poisonous weeds or other close danger. Also, because of their long wool, listen to this is awesome. It is not always easy to detect disease, wounds, or defects in sheep. For example, at a sheep show, an inferior animal can be clipped and shaped and shown so as to appear a perfect specimen. But the skilled judge will take his rod and part the sheep's wool to determine the condition of the skin. See, here's the thing. God is not fooled by you externally looking like you have your life together. He can take his little rod and part the wool and go, defect. He doesn't care that you just attend church. He's like, do you love me? Do you know me? Do you walk with me? I don't care what you're giving off to the world. I'm not fooled by it. Yeah, okay, so yesterday I was in Starbucks and I walked through the thing, I ordered a venti Americano. She goes, okay, that'll be $4. And I'm like, okay, take my credit card out. As the machine goes, the tip says, you want a tip? I'm like, tip, you make $20 an hour. I just made a $5 coffee. No. As my card hit the thing, she's like, are you Pastor Mark? I'm like, no. See, here's the thing, guys. If you see me in public, all right, here's the hack, and you work as a barista or something, tell me on the front end, and you're gonna get a big, nice tip. Don't wait till I've already paid. See, I wanna project something out to the world that's not true. That I'm generous and I'm cheap. Right? $4 for a coffee, that's good, man. I'll give you $10 for a coffee. But if you say, oh, hello, Pastor Mark, what can I get you? I'm giving them a tip for sure, because I want them to tell their friends. Here's the thing, man. God cannot be fooled by your nonsense. You prepare a table before me. This is not a table that we think about. It's a table a shepherd used to go and have to set in the greenery. He would set a table. He would make sure it was all the grass was set so that they could all lie down in a particular way, because they would tread back and forth so much that they would destroy the land around them. So he had to make sure he took them in all kinds of different directions, and he'd set a table in the presence of my enemies. There's lots of enemies. You anoint my head with oil. My cup overflows. By the way, I wish we could have time to talk about the need for us to act and live as if our cup is overflowing versus my cup is empty, which is some of our spirits as we walk around the world. We walk around the world as if our cups are empty and we're sad and we're miserable. And one of the great things the world needs to see is a whole bunch of Jesus-loving, Bible-believing Christians who say, my cup is full. God has filled my cup. And then it ends like this. Surely your goodness and love will follow me. You know what I noticed? Even this morning, as I worked on this, as I was looking at it, you know what the phrase follow me I never realized before? A shepherd doesn't go in front. A shepherd leads the sheep from behind. This is what he's saying. Surely your goodness and love will follow me all the days of my life, and I will dwell in the house of the Lord forever. Goodness and love, goodness and love, goodness and love. Listen, some of you come in here and you think God is like wrathful and mean and angry with you. Those footsteps that you hear treading behind you, you know what they are? They're made of goodness and love. And listen, when I started my church, so there's this great thing that Jesus does in the Gospels, okay? In the Gospel of Matthew. So there's 4 gospel accounts and 89 chapters in total in the Gospels if you read Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John. Do you know there's only one time where Jesus Christ tells us what's in his heart? One time. In the Gospel of Matthew, he tells us this in Matthew 11. I am gentle and lowly in heart. Listen, when I planted my church in 2010, I was a jacked up 29-year-old kid, and I was like gentle and lowly in heart. That's not what anyone needs to hear. They need to hear about revolution. They need to die to themselves. Jesus, 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 die to yourself. You gotta move here. You gotta give it up. You gotta gentle and lowly in heart. They're weak. And now, 15 years on, I'm 45 years old. And you know what I love now more than anything? That Jesus is gentle and lowly in heart. Why? Because I got 15 more years of sins that I've needed him to forgive me for. Some of you have a concept of God where he's following you to strike you dead because he's mad and he's angry at you. He just goes, goodness and love will follow me all the days of my life. I'm hoping that's the vision you get, to the point where we're gonna go and look at what he says, so I can dwell in the house of the Lord forever, both having him in this life and going to heaven when we pass away. Father in heaven, I do pray that we have hearts, souls that are refreshed and restored by you, the Good Shepherd. That we would surrender our lives to you in such a way that we know because we've trusted in the life, the death, the resurrection. Just like this shepherd went down and he stripped naked in order to set all that stuff up so that the sheep could drink. You, Jesus, were stripped naked for us on the cross. You took the wrath of God on yourself so that we wouldn't have to feel it, so we could dwell in the house of the Lord forever. Lord Jesus, let us believe in that, trust to it, treasure it with everything we've got. In Jesus' great name we pray. Amen. Amen, guys. Thank you guys so much for being here. We love you, and we'll see you next weekend for Psalm 27, okay? Rock on. All right, guys, thanks so much for watching our Bayside online service. We're so glad that you're actually part of our church, which you are, even though you're watching from all over the world, and we have people literally watching from all over the world. You are part of our family, and we want to get to know you. So please make sure you get in touch with us. Let us know your story. We'd love to hear you and serve you in any way we can. Also, part of what drives the way we connect as a church globally is giving. And so if you're part of our family, we would love you to start giving to our church. Those resources, we steward them to reach people all over the world. And we hear amazing stories about what Jesus is doing with your resources. So if you already give, thank you. If not, you can start giving. We would love that. And then finally, we have all kinds of stuff we do. We have a podcast network. We have like 10 podcasts that address a whole bunch of different things in your life. So if you're a podcaster, join us in the Thrive Podcast Network. We'd love to serve you. We've got a ton of stuff there. We just want to make sure that you feel part of our family. So we love you. Thank you so much for being part of this family, and we will see you next week.